Tasidere, everyone.
Okay, so go to it. Chat here. So we do prostration. Namo manjo shiri Nama zo shiri Nama o Dhamma shri so O Namo manjo shiri Nama zo shiri Nama o Dhamma shri so O Namo manjo shiri Nama zo shiri Nama o Dhamma shri so Jajo Bandu Nandi Gansu Dage Jinso Gibe Tunangi Rola Benje Sange Drobajo Sange Chena Soge Chonala Jajo Bandu Nandi Gansu Dage Jinso Gibe Tunangi Rola Benje Sange Drobajo Sange Chena Soge Chonala Jajo Bandu Nandi Gansu Dage Jinso Gibe Tunangi Rola Benje Sange Drobajo Sange Chena Soge Chonala Jajo Bandu Nandi Gansu Dage so give us one ange, Rola Benje Sange Ruba Jo, Sange Jedang so give Jonala, Janjo Badu Nandi Katsuji, Sange so give us one ange, Rola Benje Sange Ruba Jo, Sange Jedang so give Jonala, Janjo Badu Nandi Katsuji, Nage so give us one ange, Rola Benje Sange Ruba Jo, Sange Jedang so give Jonala, Janjo Badu Nandi Katsuji, Nage so give us one ange, Rola Benje Sange Ruba Jo, Sange Jedang so give Jonala, Janjo Badu Dande Gyazo Je, Dage Jinso Gibe Sonangi, Rola Benje Sange, Choba Isho. Pege Jushi Me Todang, Mira Linshi Nide Kembadi, Sange Shindo Mide Uwaye, Togen Nanda Shila Chuba Isho, Idan Guru Rana Mendala Kandi Yadaya Mi. All sentient beings have been our mothers, and all sentient beings have been our mothers for numberless times. So all sentient beings want happiness and do not want suffering. However, due to not knowing the objects of abandonment and adoption properly, they create only the karma that bring forth the result of suffering. In our minds, sincerely generate loving kindness, compassion, loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings, thinking, how nice if all kind mother sentient beings had happiness. May all kind mother sentient beings have happiness. I will cause all kind mother sentient beings to have happiness. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. Next, we generate compassion toward all suffering mother sentient beings. How nice if 3 doors of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from suffering. May 3 doors of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from suffering. I will cause 3 doors of all suffering mother sentient beings to be free from suffering. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. Next, we generate bodhicitta. First, we ask ourselves who should take the responsibility to free all sentient beings from the sufferings of whole samsara and of lower realms. I should take the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of three lower realms and of samsara. However, I do not have the ability to do so now. Only those who have achieved the perfect, complete enlightenment have the ability to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all sentient beings, by all means, I want to become Buddha.
That age is essentially 20 to the Sunday Combat of Shao, Ranginika Daichi, number 2 set up. The church and get a little more company, Rangi say, what you do, the Champion, Ranginika Daichi, the Doji of 7 number 2 set up 29%.
Next, we generate all-encompassing yoga mind. First, our aspiring conventional bodhicitta that thinks, for the sake of all sentient beings, I want to become Buddha. These transform into a white mundis at one's heart. And the ultimate bodhicitta, there is one taste with, and our ultimate bodhicitta, that is, and the ultimate bodhicitta, that is one's mind becoming in one taste with emptiness, that all phenomena are lacking of inherent existence. That transform into a white five-pronged vajra at one's heart, on top of the mundis at one's heart.
That age is a dog for the Rangi that the counter Rangi.
Next, we meditate on emptiness, that I neither exist intrinsically one with, nor intrinsically different from the aggregates. Thus, I do not exist intrinsically.
That age is just a project today, to the Government, and the children. It's just a project to build the children. Since you're pointing to the Sunday of teaching, bringing Chinese, since you're pointing to the Sunday of teaching, both of the Shah Committee, inside the Sunday children, Saturday by time, Jimmy Pashi, the chicken side, the chicken side, also make sure that the chicken side.
Next, to make our 2 hours of learning conjoined with the practice of 6 perfections, thus I will talk about conjoining it with each of the perfections of practice. So first is the practice of generosity. So we have to cause our minds of giving to manifest. So to cultivate the strong minds of giving. That is, for these 2 hours, all the roots of virtue that I've accumulated, and especially the roots of virtue that I'm going to accumulate through these 2 hours of learning Dharma, may the roots of virtue of my 3 doors, I give my roots of virtue of my 3 doors to all sentient beings. Next is the practice of morality, and morality is about the minds of abandoning. So for these 2 hours, whatever roots of virtue that I'm going to accumulate through explaining Dharma, listening to Dharma, and meditating on Dharma. So while I'm doing this, I stopped my negativities of my body and speech. So I stopped my body and speech negativities. I'm going to abandon in this way. Next is the practice of patience. Just for these 2 hours of explaining, listening, and meditating on Dharma. So whatever physical and mental hardships that occur, I will embrace it. Next is the practice of joyous effort. So for the purpose of working for the sake of all sentient beings, that I have the opportunity to listen to Dharma, to explain the Dharma, and to meditate on Dharma. I'm very fortunate. So you generate this delightful mind. Next is the practice of meditative concentration. So for these 2 hours, I'm going to focus my mind on the topics of the lesson, and I do not get distracted to other issues, like for example, our family issues or our work issues. I do not get distracted by this, and I focus my mind only on the topics of today's lesson. Next is the practice of wisdom. So for these 2 hours, I try my best to understand the meanings of those words of the teachings. So, for example, understanding the benefits of training in 6 perfections and understanding the faults or disadvantages of not practicing it. So I try my best to understand the meaning of those words. And that is that is considered as the practice of wisdom.
더 대지에서 이제 통지되는 상지식 그것도 대지에 더 장교 라지를 치시는 세계적으로 좀 대선전에 판단 사도서 보여지고.
So yeah, so set motivation for the sake of all sentient beings. I want to become Buddha. For this purpose, I'm going to listen to the commentary on Lamrim teachings and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
Oh yeah, thank you. 그래서 간도 사마기 무슨 나중에도 따버리지 컨디비죠 간디지 제발이나 우리 맞은 제대로 뭐냐네 제발 영시 우리 가디나 수도에 컨디비죠 취비가 간디 주변에 부딪히는 오늘 전에 때 시고 교왔습니다. 그래서 때 세나미는 납치면서 소납치면서 이바이는 납치면서 다투야 네 딘데요.
Yeah, so whatever roots of virtue that I'm going to engage, so like for example reciting prayers, then it's very important to meditate or to set. It's very important to meditate as what I mentioned just now. So if we're able to do so, then we are very fortunate because we are going to accumulate extensive merits, and our negativities will be greatly reduced or purified.
그런데 고지에다가 진짜 기본의 계셔 맞다야. 지신나 트라드를 약간씩 진짜를 맞다 다시나도 그거에서 맞게 네 말가 이 단단된 진짜를 취하다 소소 가디나 배서 보도가 아니 지하기 체들다 다 소소 배 간데 진짜 봐 가리나 단단 진짜를 운도 넣으실 때 청상하고 진로드나 다 밑밥버리시 지고 이제 소소로라 공부 좀 사람은 무엇에 공부 싶은데서 그 모두가 상관도 이 뒤집게 친구다 진짜 지고 체들다.
Yeah, so to do such meditations as a preliminary for our classes, then is not just meant for us to meditate when we attend class only. So it is necessary for our other practices as well. So basically, any times when we want to engage in roots of virtue, for example, like such as reciting prayers or accumulating mantras, then it is very important to conjoin such practices with this preliminary practice, which is to meditate, as what I mentioned just now. So if we are going to do these meditations for every classes. So in order to habituate ourselves with such practice.
다들 막 가도 참 시간이 디나 치 기치기 치는 좀 간단히 대파지기 생각이 좀 그래서 말과 같이 손들어와.
So I'm going to continue where I stopped last time. So as it is necessary to enter the Mahayana, think about how it is to be entered. There is no great way. How generating Konda, sorry. Yeah, how do you know? We teach him what it means, but he should do it all. How you know? Yeah, show me the. 一主义 existence thing about. Oh, yeah. Sorry. This will be explained. This is uncommon. Yeah, go on. Yeah, here. So if that mind exists even in someone untrained in Bodhisattva, then he is said to be a Bodhisattva. Therefore, it is not sufficient for the Dharma to be a Mahayana Dharma, but rather it is important that the person has entered the Mahayana. So this is where we stopped last time. Yeah, so I'm going to explain what it means. I'm going to explain this sentence. Therefore, it is not sufficient for the Dharma to be a Mahayana Dharma, but rather it is important that the person has entered the Mahayana. So what is Mahayana Dharma? So Mahayana Dharma is the actual practice in the great vehicle or Mahayana is cultivating love, compassion, and bodhicitta, and train in 6 perfections and 4 ways of gathering disciples. So those are the actual Mahayana practices. So then, but rather it is important for the person has entered the Mahayana, or for the person to become a Mahayanist. So if the practitioner able to become a Mahayanist and engage in those practices, then it become more powerful. Yeah. So in order for the person to become a Mahayanist, then what should the practitioner generates in their mind, or in whose mind? So, and that which is to be cultivated in whose mind is the entrance to Mahayana, which is Bodhichitta. So in other way of saying this is, one has to cultivate Bodhichitta, that is the entrance to Mahayana, in order for one to become a Mahayanist, or to become a Mahayanist. So if one's Bodhichitta has arisen in one's mind, then that person become a Mahayanist. And the text says, whether you become a Mahayanist depends on Bodhicitta itself. If that mind is no more than an intellectual understanding, your being a Mahayanist is the same. So if we generate a uncontrived Bodhicitta, then our practice will become completely pure. So if our Bodhicitta is just words, then our being a Mahayanist is also just words. And on the other hand, if you have fully qualified bodhicitta, you will also become a completely pure Mahayanist. Therefore, you should make an effort. So bodhicitta is the uncommon cause for one to achieve the state of enlightenment. So it is the uncommon cause for one to achieve the state of enlightenment. So in other way of saying this is, if you want to achieve the union of non-training, then you have to generate bodhicitta. Milo be sungju roy jala.
다들 동복기 운동을 마찬가지로 다 간다 장주지 세다 상지지 최탄지지 사변다고 해서 상지지 최탄지 사변다고 다 사변되는 시스템 안다 팀이 쥐쥐지 잡고 쥐 무슨 우리 쥐쥐 사변도 와 사변이 여도면 와 다 사변스나 때 팀이 와 쥐지 차고.
And as the marvelous Array Sutra says, child of the lineage, bodhicitta is like seed of all the Dharma of the Buddha. So other way of saying this is bodhicitta is the cause of all the Dharma of the Buddha. So because a cause is the uncommon, seed is the uncommon cause for its sprout.
This was that's the Timo Sanji, Stella, Timo Majida, Carriesna, Choju said, Saturday, Choju said, hello, what did she?
Yeah, so just like, so this seed refers to the uncommon cause. So for example, the uncommon cause for the barley sprout is the barley seed, because barley seed is the uncommon cause for the barley sprout. So, and saying that it is uncommon cause, meaning this barley seed will not give rise to the wheat sprout.
That the service was Niji Sabi and Niji Timo, Niji Sabi and Niji Timo. That the Sugi Timo, that Chanju said that Sanji Timo, this was a Timo to Chaswan. But that there are she, they can don't need to be shared there, don't need to be shared there. There's Sanji the native and just Timo, yes, Timo. Don't need to be shared there. That Sanji. Sanji Kupata, Native Dutch Kupata, Randa Dutch Kupata, Timo, yes. That the Nashi, that should the Euro, should the lead so that Timo, Nature you go, Nature Sabi, J, should the lead so Nature Sabi delegation, you get to worry, Nature Sabi delegation, and Nature get to worry. The Jamala Saba Kandina Chita leads to the Sabe Kangaki, Chechin, around the Chit to the Wa. Or Delepe, Cumulative, the moment you check.
So the uncommon cause for the barley sprout is the barley seed, and the uncommon cause for the rice sprout is the rice seed, and the uncommon cause for the enlightenment is bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is the uncommon cause for one to achieve the state of enlightenment. Then we talk about wisdom realizing emptiness. So wisdom realizing emptiness is the common cause for one to achieve the state of hearers, solitary realizers, and enlightenment or Buddhahood. So wisdom realizing emptiness is the common cause for one to achieve these three types of enlightenment: hearers, solitary realizers, and the Buddhahood. So just like water and fertilizer, then they are the common cause for the barley seed to sprout, and it is the common cause for the rice seed to sprout, and it is the common cause for the pea to sprout as well. So this is the difference between common cause and uncommon cause. So bodhicitta being the uncommon cause, and wisdom realizing emptiness being the common cause. Yeah. So here he says, whereas the causes for a Buddha sprout, the minds of unsurpassed enlightenment, like the seed, it's the uncommon cause. So bodhicitta, mind of unsurpassed enlightenment refers to bodhicitta. So it's like the seed, it is the uncommon cause. And the wisdom realizing emptiness, then is like the conditions, like water, fertilizer, and so forth, is the common cause of the three types of enlightenment. So these three types of enlightenment refers to Stravaka, or you can say the state of liberations of a hearer, the state of liberations of a solitary realizers, and the state of complete enlightenment. So also Maitreya's sublime continuum, then he says that the meaning of this verse also mentions about the uncommon cause or the seed of the sprout of enlightenment is the bodhicitta, and the common cause of the sprout of enlightenment is the wisdom realizing emptiness. So this wisdom realizing emptiness is like the mother, and the uncommon cause or the seed is like a father. So as it says here, so it's like the father seed, and the wisdom realizing emptiness is like the mother. Then, for instance, since a Tibetan father cannot have a child who is Indian, Chinese, or Mongolian, the father is the cause that determines the lineage. On the other hand, a Tibetan mother is like the common cause, since she can give birth to all kinds of children. So, so if the father is a Tibetan, then father refers to the uncommon cause. So if the father is the Tibetan, then the child will not be born as a Tibetan, will not be born as a Chinese, or will not be born as an Indian. It's not possible, because the father determines the lineage. And if the mother is a Tibetan, so mother refers to the common cause. So if the mother is a Tibetan, then mother can give birth to a child of all different lineages, Chinese, Mongolian, or Indian, or even Westerners. So here, this father refers to the uncommon cause, and this uncommon cause refers to Bodhichitta. And here mother refers to the common cause, and here common cause refers to wisdom realizing emptiness. Therefore, the perfection of wisdom is said to be like a mother. Yeah, so then he says in the Nagarjuna prays to the perfection of wisdom, and he says Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas equally rely on it. So Buddhas, Pratika Buddhas, and Shravakas, they rely on the singular path to liberations, which is wisdom. So that is why the perfection of wisdom is also known as the mother. So since it is the mother of the sons of both, the Mahayana and Hinayana. So mother referring to the perfection of wisdom, and the sons is the results of the mother. So and these sons refers to hearer, solitary realizers, and the state of enlightenment. In other way of saying this is the arhatship, is the Mahayana arhatship. So hearers arhatship, solitary realizers arhatship, and the Mahayana arhatships. So these sons is what these sons refer to. And it is not the wisdom realizing emptiness that differentiates the Mahayana and the Hinayana. Rather, Bodhichitta and vast conduct differentiates them. So as it says in the Precious Garland, that is differentiated not by view, but by conduct. So wisdom is not the one that differentiates one to be a Mahayanist, is not the one that differentiates the Mahayana and the Hinayana. So even if one generate wisdom realizing emptiness in one's mind stream, and however that itself, that doesn't differentiate one to be a Mahayanist or not a Mahayanist. However, once Bodhicitta arisen in one's mind, then that differentiates oneself become a Mahayanist and not a Hinayanist.
the listen that to the Tashi is that you don't know Santi Salavada, only to be killed up. That yes, you about that, you say, didn't work. Oh, the listen that only to be killed up digital moment, you do my was that she got a car. Yes, that digital moment did change to say that Dharma did to the single, but the name of all of this is visible. What you trying to what?
So here, even the wisdom realizing emptiness is not a path unique to the Mahayana, or is not a path that differentiates one to be is not the path that differentiates the Mahayana or Hinayana, then what need is there to mention other paths? So definitely other paths are not the one that differentiates the Mahayana and Hinayana. So only Bodhicitta is the one that differentiates Mahayana and Hinayana. So for that reason, it is necessary to train in Bodhicitta, and having made instructions on it as one main concern. So basically, when we talk about path, there are two aspects. One is the method aspect, another one is the wisdom aspect. So wisdom aspect referring to wisdom realizing emptiness, and the method aspect refers to the Bodhisattva's conduct.
That is also say the judge which are saying to me, but no, you must see the judge which are saying.
Yeah, the method referred to the conduct, and in this context is the Bodhisattva conduct. So yeah. So how to generate the minds of Bodhicitta? Then it has 3 points: the stages of training in Bodhicitta, the measure of it having a reason, and the way to adopt it by means of a ritual. So at the beginning of this, at the beginning of the great vehicle, is very important to understand and also to remind ourselves that small vehicle and medium vehicle are the foundations. So yeah, we have to pay close attention, because from now on, then we are going to talk from this point onwards. Then it's going to talk about how to generate the minds of Bodhicitta. So it's the method to generate Bodhicitta. So in which then we talks about this the 7 cause and effect, and 7 cause and effect is the method to generate Bodhicitta. So if we do not understand, or if we do not equip ourselves with the understanding of this method, then there is no way that Bodhicitta will arise in one's mind stream. So it's just like if we want to do a job, or if we want to do something, then we must be skilled in the method, right, in order to accomplish the job. Otherwise, then we are unable to do the job. So then you also say the 7 cause and effect instruction transmitted. So 7 cause and effect instructions. So in this context, the instructions of 7 cause and effect is the method for one to generate Bodhicitta. So the 7 cause and effect instructions. So instructions here in this context, it means the method for one to generate Bodhicitta. So through the 7 cause and effect, which is training the mind gradually.
맞아. 진짜 명아디 just 조금 너무 같은 맛이 돼. 조금 명아 되는 것 와. 좀 맛이 안 와. 명아서 무슨 정말 세는 게 와.
So the stages of training in Bodhichitta, this has two variations: the sevenfold cause and effect instruction transmitted from Lama Disha, and the training based on text by the Bodhisattva Shantideva. So the training here referred to equalizing and exchanging oneself with others. So first, we are going to talk about the first method: sevenfold cause and effect instruction transmitted from Lama Disha.
그게 너무 좋아지면 내가 지금 마시는 것이 진짜 너무 내가 지는 거 위해서 저와 조배 상지 장주지 세 조배 상지 장주지 세네 조배 상지의 것을 쓸어 줘서 장주지 세는 거 좋아했어요. 조배 상지 장주지 세 안되게 장주지 세대 가르칠 때는 정말 하산 좀 좋아해서 이 자서와 그 하산의 니제를 좀 니제의 샴바데 진 소알 진 소알데 진 젬바데 신기하게 마 공발이 이렇게 좋아 근데 뒤에다 담보 나마 제부데 수서 나마 좋아 좋아서 쉬우도와 나마 심마 그래서 준비지는 바보다 쉬우도와
So the seven cause and effect instructions is this. So we have to identify what these seven cause and effects are. So a complete Buddha is born from Bodhichitta. So from what complete Buddha is born? So from Bodhichitta. So this mind refer to Bodhichitta. So Bodhichitta born from extraordinary attitude. So extraordinary attitude. So there are in English, then there are many translations for this word in Tibetan Hwaksam. So here is translated as extraordinary attitude. Then there are common translations such as altruism, altruistic attitude, wholehearted resolve. So all in this context, then they refer to this extraordinary attitude or Hwaksam in Tibetan. And this extraordinary attitude then is born from compassion, and compassion is born from love, and love is born from the wish to repay the kindness, and the wish to repay the kindness is born from remembering the kindness, and remembering the kindness is born from seeing beings as one's mother. So this seven cause and effect is listed from the seven then to the first one. So the result arises from the previous one, and the previous one being the cause for the later one. So the seven cause and effect instructions that is transmitted from Lama Disha. So then if we were to count it from first then to the seven, then the first one is seeing sentient beings as one mother, the first one. And then second is remembering the kindness. And the third one is wish to repay the kindness. And the fourth one is love. Fifth, compassion. Sixth, extraordinary attitude. And seventh, Bodhichitta. So this is how we list seven cause and effect in the forward order.
하장배, 수정배, 내다 년제다, 리배 시기 있어야 되라 자신 수치 겁니다. 소소 마가서 지가 될때 자수에 당연히 만들어 컨트롤해서 같은 수치 겁니다. 와, 다 자동이 소소 만들어 세대 농도서야 게 되거든요. 단면서 세농도인 거. 아무 디고 단면이 하고 이거 봐이나 진짜 명아들 좀 뭐 간디 정말 비비다고 생각했어요. 좋아.
So so before I talk about the 7 cause and effect, then how about we meditate or cultivate an equanimous mind or equanimity? So and I'm going to talk about how to generate an equanimity or equanimous mind before we talk about the 7 cause, before the 7 cause and effect. So what does it mean by equanimous mind or equanimity? So it is to equalize our mind or to bring our mind to a neutral state. So what does it mean? And it means that our mind is not affected by attachment and is not affected by anger. So that is what it means by equanimous mind, or bring the mind to an equal state. So to make our mind free of attachment to beloved ones, friends, or family members, and to make our mind free of hatred towards the person that we don't like or our enemies. So that is what it means by equanimous mind or equanimity. So if we able to cultivate equanimity before 7 cause and effect, then the practice of 7 cause and effect then will become a very good good quality or good practice. Yeah, so if we do not cultivate this equanimous mind or this equanimity, then we are unable to engage in the 7 cause and effect. So it's just like a field where we want to plant our crops. Like for example, if we want to plant rice, for example, then we have to we have to plant it on a piece of land that is level, so that when we put water and when we give fertilizer, then it stays, and then the harvest, then the plant will grow well and of good quality. So if we were to plant the seed, if we were to plant the seed on a mountainside, on a slope, then if we put water, then the water will just flow away, right? And even if we put fertilizer, and then the fertilizer will go away as well. So as a result of this, then the sprout will not grow well. So the meaning of this is, if we cultivate an equanimous mind, if our mind is in an equal state that is free from attachment and hatred, whatever roots of virtue we engage, since it is free of attachment and hatred, then that roots of virtue becomes powerful, and that roots of virtue is of good quality.
다 소화 단에서 와서 소화 대화다 동안 그냥 뭐 이게 아니 그게 신고와 소화 대화 그냥 그렇지 와. 오. 다 단단 뒤 가서 와서 세네 단에서 다 되게 명화 되는 시와도 단이 되셔 세네 단. 다 제일 좋아.
Yeah, so equanimity or equanimous mind is necessary. When we talk about equanimity, is of three types. So equanimity, that is equanimity of application. So in other words, is compositional equanimity. And the second one is equanimity in relation to feeling. And the third one is immeasurable equanimity. So the first one, equanimity of application. So if you still remember, then when we study mind and mental factors, we did go through this. So we did go through this. So first one, equanimity of applications. So when we study or when we practice, then we have to study continuously. Like for example, if we practice Dharma, then or if we study read books, for example, then we study continuously. Every day we also study, like for example, 2 hours or 3 hours. So instead of today I study and then the next day I do not. So that is not equal in that sense. So that is equanimity of application. So if you study for 2 hours a day, then you also do it for tomorrow and in future. So that is equanimity in relation to application. So the second one is equanimity of feeling. So equanimity of feeling is the feeling that is neither happiness nor suffering. So that is equanimity in relation to feeling, neither happiness or neither pleasant nor suffering. So the third one is equanimity, immeasurable equanimity. So that is the equanimity that we are talking about. Yeah, so before we engage 7 cause and effect, then it's important to cultivate equanimity or this equanimous mind. So we should cultivate this equanimous mind that is free of attachment to our beloved ones and free of anger towards our enemies. So whoever sentient beings, whatever sentient beings that we bring to our mind or we focus on or we focus on, then it is free of attachment. It is free of anger. That's right. So the method to generate equanimity or equanimous mind is, at the beginning we are unable to to have this equanimous mind towards all sentient beings. So rather, at the beginning, then we should generate equanimous mind towards 3 groups of sentient beings. So we visualize in front of us, the first group is enemy. So the persons that we don't like or enemies. So that is the first group of sentient beings that we generate in front of us. First group of being, so to generate in front of us, that is enemy. And the second one is to generate beloved ones, like for example, our mothers, friends, etc. So to which we have a great affections that we are unable to be separated from them for even few minutes. So that is the second group. And the third group is neutral, the stranger. So they are neither friends nor enemies to us. So we visualize these 3 groups of beings in front of us. So the first group of beings that we visualize is enemy, right? So so the first group of beings that we visualize is enemy, right? And how do we think in relation to the group of enemy? So the one that we visualize there in front of us already, right? So those we consider as enemy. So and why do we consider as enemies? Because they did something bad to us. So then I consider them as my enemy. So however, then you have to think. So however, in past lives, since beginningless time, there have been my beloved ones, such as one's father and mother, for numberless times. So they have been nice to me for numberless times and in numberless lives already. So these considerations of them as my enemy is just temporary. So therefore, I do not need to consider them as my enemies. So by thinking in this way, you stopped your hatred toward this group of enemy. So in relation to the first group that is enemy, then we stopped our hatred towards them is because by thinking about the fact that they have been our mothers or they have been our beloved ones for numberless times in the past, is their enemy in these lives is just temporarily. So by thinking in this way, then you stop hatred towards the group of enemy. Then the second group that we think about is our beloved ones, like for example, our mother. So if we, then how do we stop our attachment to our beloved ones, such as our mother? Then you think, so even though mother is very precious to us, and they cherish, and mother cherishes us very much. So by giving birth to us, by feeding us, and then by giving this by giving the blood and the flesh to me. So however, they have been my enemies in past lives as well. So since beginningless time, this mother that I attach so much, they have been my enemy in my past lives as well. So by thinking in this way, so even though they are very precious, they cherish us very much. However, they have been my enemy in past lives as well. So thinking in this way, then you stop your attachment towards the group of beloved ones, such as one's mother. So being one's beloved ones or being one's enemy is just temporarily. So it's just temporary, and is only limited to this life only. So I shouldn't let this to determine. I shouldn't differentiate them in this way, the attachment and hatred. I shouldn't be differentiated them by attachment and hatred.
Sedila ngane ngo mashiba pat kake jobe ba chare mata ta jiwa ngamal pe sere jara mongola phama jesare ga sensari chipachi jang gi godu shiba ga da phamani chipachi jang ta koranso jange bi nesla tsindige dot ta tsindige amada tsindige phamati tsindige phama kaya man mazinge di sunga de ta jiwa sere jara mongola phama sheda chipachi su ja sunga chipachi su that the Chipa Chasha, send it on Chibama, the Chipa is what is almost at it. No, the Chadanga, Patokan, this is number decimal, the same number, so the condition
And the third groups of beings is a stranger, so to whom we do not have any liking attitudes, or we do not have a disliking attitudes as well. So whom we regard as a stranger is those who do not have connection with us, and I do not recognize them as well. So even though we do not recognize them, however, they have been our parents, they have been our beloved ones for numberless times, and they have been our enemies for numberless times as well. So it's not just they are not just a stranger in this. So they are not just anyone that we don't know. Like in these lives. So in fact, they are same in being our beloved ones for numberless times, and they are same in being our enemies for numberless times as well. So then by stopping attachment towards these groups of sentient beings, and by stopping hatred towards these groups of sentient beings, then we bring our mind to a neutral state, or we generate an equanimous mind or equanimity towards these three groups of beings.
Oh, that indeed also saying me this on a passing number. So, yes, so did the jela. They can the single someone very much, they can the Darangi, Sindi Man, Takanda, Mahidi, she's on them. That the same which so the Mashiki sounds like them, Mahit, Sinji Tuba, same number you want with that Mahid and low down. This same number you that same digging Amanashi, or Sindi Amanashi, that is Siji Tangi, Sindilan, you are never some of them motto, that you are Terra Jata Mobile Tandang, Sindi Amanashi, Gadin Chimbo, 샤다렌 상 아디에상 당 간다와 마시바 근데 이 상당히 선지 탄대는 마시바지 상당으로와.
So you generate equanimity toward these three groups of beings. Then, after you generate equanimous mind to these three groups of beings, then you extend this equanimity towards all sentient beings. So after you extend this equanimity towards all sentient beings, then only we start the first one in 7 cause and effect, which is seeing all sentient beings as mother. So they are as kind, all sentient beings are in fact as kind as the mothers of these lives, so because they have been my mothers for numberless times.
This is the Tajini, who's Amal the Haja, Shenchachi, the Kabu, Kanda Amal Gabuchi, the Kabus, and the Womandas, the Amal Yabuchi. Being also Jada near Pama Sangala, Sim Numbus, kitchen, Chadam or the Masa, Chadam, you would back up the essay. Chida was a pair Amala, Yapuchi. That was a join that is Amal Shenchadi Ura, Chadi Hato Sigo Nigri, did be Yapuchi.
So, like I mentioned just now, that we have to stop attachment towards the groups of beloved ones, such as one's parents. So, I'm not saying that you should stop loving your mothers. I'm not saying that you should stop treating your mother well. I'm not saying I do not mean that. What I mean is, you should stop attachment towards your mother, towards the beloved ones. So you still have to have high regards for them. You should cherish them. You should treat them well, and you should have these liking attitudes toward them as well. So just that we do not. What has to be stopped here is the attachment towards these groups of beings. So why do we have to stop attachment and hatred towards different groups of beings in order to generate an equanimity or equanimous mind towards these 3 groups of beings, friends or beloved ones, enemy, and stranger?
Dila Samapani. That's the Amadi, Nanji Amadi, Kanda, support the Yapota, and Dutch of Shibiji by not this summer Navaji. The Amadi is Gemo, Yangawashi, is the Tubodawashi. The Digipay Samotani, and Lipe Samotani, that the Karato in Kanda, that Chada, Kanda Sachi, Dewachi, that she not there. They were business about the Ninike, Mayasanta, Amakandarwa. Kidan also just Sujita in a diesel, Dacha by a diesel, not so far. And in Namtava, with some of the pillars, they were the huge chamber living Yeso. They were the Pilla Shambuchi, Hackney, the Zitu chamber, the huge chamber living Yeso. But that the Teddy Hatan with Zitu, huge chamber should live. Or that the Digit was that under my heat going, it said the Amma should Zitu huge chamber live. They need Zitu to live on Nashi, that they say Sinje, that data need. Candigina, that changing Amadi Namashi, or Tito changing level. Changing Amadi Tito level, so when it got to switch down, the station was the color to screen down with the station was in Amal Chibu as a Lipe, such a Tito Chimbo, Levina. Yeah, Amadi, the level of person, some of the Kino, Amanashi, Tito Chimbochi, this is what that changed the Jiwa, Jiwa, Chedla, Mamaji, Chibama, that Chedra Gata Mamma, and that changing Amada, Machika Dichi was Kamachiba, and also Chipene, Jiwa and Madalam, Digi, make up Nicola Tema Digimoto, they turned out on that Chiba in the Usan, take a Dichimo, Amaiba. But that Digi sound later, Machine, you can run a machine.
You did say the Amma di Kazan, the water, or any day, some of Mata.
Chibu, the way she would be media water, Suboya water, the Pusu Topata, and this Shibuji is also recorded by the villa, the Ninja, the future machine, look,
That's right.
이제 양나와도 명타반다고 있는데 미지 상례바이나 될 하자 제가 휴치를 내서 뭐라 제가 휴치무시 뭐 네게 있어요. 생각해서 님지 보는 두서로 하면
Yeah, so after we equalize our mind, or after we generate this equanimity towards these groups of sentient beings, then we think about, and then we come to the first one, which is seeing all sentient beings as one mother. So at this point of time, then it is important to think about the mother of this life. So when we think about mothers of this life, we do not think about them as being very happy, even though if they are very happy. So we do not think about them being very happy, being very pretty, or being, wealthy, or have a lot of wealth and possessions. We do not think of them in this way, is because if we were to think about them in this way, then it will be more difficult for our love and our compassion to arise. Therefore, instead of thinking them in that manner, then we should think about them being in a very wretched state, or being in a very poor state, in a very pitiful state. Then, and by thinking in this way, then I'll say whatever happiness they experience is just a contaminated happiness. So if we think about them in this way, then love towards the mothers of this life and will become stronger. So you will be able to generate a stronger loving attitudes towards the mother of this life. So after we generate loving attitudes towards mothers of this life, then we will gradually extend the same attitude towards other groups of sentient beings. So the enemy, the beloved ones, and all sentient beings. So we have to generate the same attitude to these groups of sentient beings as the one that we have for our mothers of this life. So so because of taking rebirth, so we travel, so we take rebirth from our previous lives and to these lives, and we continuously take rebirths. It's just that we do not remember sentient beings have been our mothers. It's not that they have not been our mothers before. So all sentient beings have been our mothers before. It's just that we do not recognize them. So, and therefore, it's very important to think about mothers as a very kind one to us. And so this is like an introductions before we talk about the 7 cause and effect. So to generate equanimous mind, or to generate equanimity. So this is like introductions. So when we come to the actual points of 7 cause and effect, then we will talk about it further. So then we come back to text. So generating certainty concerning the stages. So this has 2 points. The way compassion is the root of the Mahayana, and the way the other causes and effects become causes and effects of that compassion. So the way compassion is the root of the Mahayana, then this has 3 points. The importance of compassion at the beginning, the importance of compassion in the middle, and at the end. Yeah, so the first point that we are going to talk about is the way compassion, the importance of compassion at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. That is part of the so that is the subdivisions of the way compassion is the root of the Mahayana. So I encourage all of you to pay close attention to this, the importance of compassion at this in these three phases. To give you overall a picture about how important it is, compassion in these three phases, at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end, is so the compassion is important at the beginning is like a seed. So the compassion is important at the beginning because it is like a seed. So if you want to grow a barley sprout, then you have to have the barley seed, right? Without it, then there is no way that the barley sprout can be grown, right? So compassion at the beginning is very compassion is important at the beginning because it is like a sprout. Without it, there is no way that the barley sprout can be grown. And it is important in the middle because after the barley is sprouted, then you have to give water, right? So if without water, then this barley sprout will wither or will dry. Thus, compassion is important in the middle. And at the end, and compassion is important because after the fruit, after the harvest is ripened, after the crops is ripened, then we enjoyed it. So it is important because after the crops is ripened, then we enjoyed it. So by having compassion is important at the end is because we able to enjoy the crops once it's ripened. Then it removes or eliminates the sufferings of poverty. So, for example, the sufferings of not finding food, the sufferings of thirst, hunger, and not finding food or necessities, just like it is happening in many countries.
This is the leg money. And did you money by now? This Sinchila Dumala, where you quit share the little months over the little months. That's not the little months. Then the bottom of the change you say the jet or change you say the jet. And this is that then you get a top of a cage or each other. Hasn't yet been ages change you say what the lead child is Toma cage of Sabine.
Yeah, so as I mentioned just now, compassion is important at the beginning, just like a seed. So because if we do not have compassions, then we will not have the wish to save sentient beings from samsara, the wish to free sentient beings from samsara, and the wish to benefit them, and the wish to eliminate their sufferings will not arise. Therefore, it is very important to have compassions. Then at the beginning, if we do not have it, then those wishes that I mentioned just now will not arise. So if we have compassions, then those wishes that I mentioned just now, they will come, then they will arise, and then they will arise strongly. So then if we have these compassions at the beginning, then slowly, then we will be able to develop bodhicitta in our mind. And in contrary, if we do not have compassions, then those wishes will not come, and then we do not have the mind. We do not have the wish or the mind to save them at all, to free them at all, to liberate them, or to benefit or to remove their sufferings. Those wishes or those thoughts will not arise. And then Don mentions about later in the training that the altruistic mind or the extraordinary attitude can be arise. There's no way for that to arise, because if we do not have compassion, that will not arise. And then altruistic mind or the extraordinary attitudes talking about taking the responsibility to freedom. So these will not come, and then no need to mention about the bodhicitta.
Simba Charin Dodi here, Chandu Simba, the Museum, and the Zeto, the Chishi and Carresna, Chandu Sinjin, yes, Chandu see the moon. I call you did the horror. Chandu see the Lodi Museum, Lodi Museum, Dolly, Sunadua, Lodi Museum Dolly. Or Simba Charin Dodi here, Chandu Simba, the Museum, and the Zeto, Carresna, Chandu Sinjin, yes, Chandu Sinjin. Ninja, Chandu City. Someone may wear for them, yes, Thomas. He is Timothy Pena, push not the Joan, may so on the moon, yes. Push Ma, you are the young one, and never in a so on, but you have for your money. What, so your money? So, what the one she? That Chandu said that Ninja the Chandu said that Jula Jim, one of the Ninja, yes. What, Ninja, what the listen that Ninja the kitchen, yes, that Thomas Sabin and
And then as the teachings of Asayamati Sutra says, the Venerable Sharathariputra, the great compassions of the Bodhisattvas is inexhaustible. Why is that? It's because it is a preliminary. So here it talks about compassions being a preliminary for Bodhicitta. So Venerable Sharathariputra is like this, by way of analogy, just as the inward and outward flow of the breath is a preliminary for our human life force faculty. Likewise, great compassions of the Bodhisattvas is a preliminary for perfectly accomplishing the Mahayana. So compassion is important at the beginning because it is a preliminary for bodhicitta. If we do not have compassions, then there is no way bodhicitta will arise. So just like our breathing. So if we do not breathe, if a person's no longer breathing, then we lose our lives or we die, right? So bodhicitta, in order, whether bodhicitta arise in one's mind stream or not, it depends on the preliminary. So whether one has compassions or not.
가르에서 전심만 정말 가르스나 정말 가르 니는 가르에서 다 간다 소야데 다진지 친구와 인지 친구 다 인지 친구도 제사가 니는 쓰르스나 배신지 해서 인지 제사가 니 유드 쓰르스나 다 니에서 예스나 다 신지 제사가 니 신지 해서 와 신지 동화가 다운데 데리 넘바지 데리 차와 와 신지 동화 달리지 넘바 신지 쓰와 오 데리 해서 와 우리 손자 다들 와 비마들에서 간다 간다 민지대 간다 아테바 치고 누가 누구도 와 아테바 치고 누가 누구도 개체부지에 다 토마스 사베나 다리에서 다 히야 도도 된다 이게 토마 개체와 사베나 다리에서 와
So great compassion of the Bodhisattvas is a preliminary for perfectly accomplishing the Mahayana. And the Gayashisa Hill Sutra says, so Gayashisa Hill is a place or is the name of a hill. So Gayashisha Hill. So is where the teachings happens or the dialogues happens. So Manjushri, what initiates the conduct of Bodhisattvas, or what is the beginning point of the conduct of Bodhisattvas, and what is its object? So object here refers to whom compassion is generated. So that is what object refers to whom compassion is generated. So then the Manjushri replied, Divine Child, what initiates the Bodhisattva conduct is great compassion, and its object is sentient beings. So in summary, compassion is important at the beginning, just like a seed.
나 디지털이 원래 당어서 이제 바다 기초가 된다와 다 도마 기초가 사베는다와 다 사베들라 뛰는 것은 누구도 제사와 다 인지 됐다 간다 전주 세계 지와 인지 될라 때문에 전주 세계 지와 당어서 빼셔가지고 인지 될라 때문에 다 간다 전주 세계 지와 다 인지 될라 때문에 맞아 대바치고 장로 차바치다 이 상호비슷한 비슷하게와 인지라 때문에 전주 세계 지와 다 대바치고 장로 치자와 대바치고 장로 치자 다 봐도 개체 가서 맞아 전주 세계 지와 인지를 봐도 개체와 답에 전주 세계 지와 어디 당분 가서 인지를 빼 오늘 저기 전주 세계 뭐지니까 도망치 사게 되는 거지 봐도 개체 치치가 개체 세우게 다 대바치고 장로 세계 전주 세계 지와
So then it's also easier to understand the importance of compassion at the beginning. So at the beginning refers to the time where Bodhichitta hasn't arisen in one's mind stream. So compassion is important at that time, at that point of time where when Bodhichitta hasn't arisen in one's mind stream. Then the importance of compassion in the middle. So in the middle refers to the time one has already generated bodhicitta. So by in dependence on the seed, then the sprout has a reason. So in other way of saying, the meaning it trying to say is in dependence on compassion, bodhicitta has arisen in one's mind stream and one has become a Mahayanist.
당어서 봐도 개체시대 다 전주시 세는 것이 지나치서 다시 사베의 누굴 빼셔 지니까 도마 개체와 사베 다 봐도 주의로 와 주들 주께서 시고로 다 누구들 취향 맞으면 누구들 강으로 와 누구들 강으로 와다 봐도 무슨 니지 정보대 전주시 세대 주들 도마 사베 가서 이 제체는 전주 세대 주를 제바시 봐도 주를 전주 세대 주를 제바이네요 다 전주 세대 공개 당원다 전주 세대야 니바 체체 맞으나 니바 정보야 공개 맞다 마이나 그 전주 세대 동거를 내가 이거 내가 전주 세대 맞아 봐도 추면은 누구도 강으로 내가 여러와 이 요아선자 봐도 전주 세대 주를 토마 제차라야 니지 되게 또지 전주 세대야 공개 양이야도 공개 맞다 마이나 전주 세대 주를 제차는 déjà fait 저방 예바들이 마부지 예고야 다 간다 펜버 줘야 장주 세서 세세 탄지 된다 부분에서 되게 세자 전부 제대로 와 제자리 이마 제나야 딜라 장주 세들 니바 쳐지면아 고배마 땅바이나 야 장주 세들 동거리 내가 쇼내고 장주 세들 동거리 내가 내고 근데 순서 니지 전부 되게 다 추지 마서는 야네한테 장주 세들야 공배 땅 공부 당 연리 죠. 그 공부 마다나 장주 세례 동네 내가 용어. 그 내가 용어 교체 가서는 신체 조방 여 가시기 때 파로 빠지지 특별히 원자 전에 되는 이거. 파 야고 간디지나 미카지 되는 이거. 파들이 야고 저기 슈라 특별히 원자 특별히 전에 되는 이거. 다 신체를 때 나서봐 요와 선사 장주가 세는 거 지라 지더니 신체 야와도 두어서 계제 시고요 말에 신체 야도 간디지나 창성을 받고 같이 리지 이거로 와. 뭐 들리 제일 때 가시기 쳐 저는 원자 쳐. 파 간다 세신이 쳐 응골도 시고래. 파 공이 카고는 지라 파 추들이 쳐 동바라 추 사고 시고래. 그때 들리 지는 이거. 그때 들리 요리 저방 넘발레오디 그 신체기 대시할 때 가장 깔래 가부 용사를 되게 자주 생각하게 내가 이거.
So compassion is important at the beginning, just like a seed. And then when we talk about compassion, this is important in the middle. Then it's just like the water and fertilizer. So now we talk about the sprout has already a reason, right? So that the Bodhichitta has already a reason. So if we do not give water to the sprout of Bodhichitta, then this sprout will die, will dry up, right? So it's important to increase this bodhicitta by the power of great compassions. Is very important to repeatedly increase our bodhicitta that has already arisen in our mind stream by the power of great compassions. If not, then there is a great danger that we will lose this bodhicitta. Why would we lose our bodhicitta? One of the reasons is there are all types of sentient beings, right? And so when you have this bodhicitta, basically you want to work for the welfare of all sentient beings. And there are so many different types of sentient beings. So there are good types of sentient beings and there are bad types of sentient beings. So this bodhicitta is to help all sentient beings to accomplish their welfare. So you do not differentiate, or this is a bad sentient being, bad types of bad people, and this is good people. You differentiate them, then you only work for the welfare of sentient beings of only one group. It's not like that. So once you have this bodhicitta, you work for the welfare of all sentient beings. So, and then when one encounter and when this bodhisattva, so since Bodhichitta has already arisen, then he has already become a bodhisattva. So when these bodhisattva encounter bad type of people, then when you do something good for these bad people or ill-mannered people, then like for example, the bad people is experiencing thirst, then you give water to the person, and then the water, instead of thank you or repaying your kindness, then he used the hot water to splash on you or to pour the hot water on you. So when you do something good to the bad people, and then the bad people, instead of repaying your kindness, and then they repay your kindness with ingratitude. So if we do not increase our bodhicitta again and again by the power of great compassions, then there is a danger that we will lose our bodhicitta, especially when we encounter bad people, because you think that it's difficult to work for the welfare of this group of people. So if a bodhisattva has such thought that it's difficult to work for their welfare, then one will lose the bodhicitta.
that's the minji chimbuge. Roa kanda pe da chanju se tu jile jinji de se de pe na so chanju se do de la yo. chanju se keji ni ba la se ta be se wa de sinji de to sa de de chanju se de to ma.
Keji ni ba
chanju se ki chai ji la keji ni ba ni ya ma so se ta be station da so se tele sha ko
se ta be
station da station ni ni ro da de yu shuwa da keji ni ba na so sa de ma so 간다 chanju 동두고 말해. 이 동두고 말에 이나 민족이 야야 키우게 내가 변년에 공부 저기 chanju 공부 당으로 와. 간다 chanju 끼지 당도 집이 내가나 다 민족에서 chanju 양자 년에 공부 마셔 봐이나 다 생체 때 들리게 년바들이 좀 년바들이 레오디 로와 레오디 수술 때 당이 생슈찬에 세마 쇼네 당이 생지 때 전에 내가 생지 밤에 치더니 chanju 뭐지 줄라 지역이 들리게 안에 지기는 신지 찌기 된다 보면 강에 들리지도 다 신체 몸으로 감지 루트나 그래서 되게 세션에 왜 간다 장주의 세 동작이 내가 요구를 해서 장주의 세 동작이 어떻게 받지 못하는 막 비로 와 저는 막 들는 거 근데 이거에 내가 요래서 다 간다 봐도 벤지 친구는 양자 벤지의 장주의 세 양자 공부하지 추제와 마치 누구를 양자한테 추제와 이나 누구도 그런 못 집어넣으시 야 공배 레벨로 와 어때 장주의 세다是공배当我们对不对是吧
你讲述意思呢你托马给对谁的阶级谈不了呗对呢
제가 지금 저는 토마 지리가라
계지 담보 계뒤다
이 정도의 계지 담보에 가서 맞동도 내가 되면 이 진입을 내 차례 때 땅도 거 말이야 맞아 손아 담보래 손아 리게 맞대 땅도 거 말이야 와 나 티제 손아 담보 저기 내가 와 나 티제 손아 리 가서 아 맞동도 거 말이야 이 진입을 예 자주세 때문에 자리 예 건다 세 중요한 마 이제 좀 동도 거 말이야
지신 초랑디 당보디 토비 가수와 근데 기진 이바 내 템포 차사
다 템포 차데 장주세 동도 근데 세 쇼바 이제 좀 말해서 다 기지 당보가 세 쇼바 지에 되는 다 요래서
근데 양양의 닌제데 양의 슈데
슈데 세 공표로 신지 랑게 데둘라 맞다봐 랑게 데둘 간게 맞다봐 양양 쥐네 리송 땅어디 내가 신지 저번 뭐 간리 레바이나 내가 간다 소소로 신지가 빠리 내가 장주세 동도 말했어
So compassion is important once once Bodhichitta has arisen in one's mind. So when Bodhichitta arisen in one's mind, the first moment when Bodhichitta arisen in one's mind, then it's very important to cultivate compassion again and again, because there is a great danger that we will lose this Bodhichitta when we encounter people or sentient beings with bad attitudes. So, and when we encounter people with bad attitudes, then we might have this we might feel discouraged, or we might feel discouraged to work for the welfare of all sentient beings, because even this one sentient being, these bad people or bad behavior one, I also cannot work for his welfare. Don't mention this all sentient beings. So there is a great danger one will have this discouraging thought or attitude, then one will lose our bodhicitta at the first moment once bodhicitta has arisen in one's mind. So when we continue to water the sprout of bodhicitta with the water of compassion, then it will become stable. So it refers to the second moment once bodhicitta has arisen in one's mind. So it becomes stable, then one will not give up this bodhicitta. One will not give up this bodhicitta. So instead, it will increase more and more. So by meditate on compassion again and again as well. So the first moment once bodhicitta has arisen in one's mind refer to the point where when we first achieve the path of accumulation of Mahayana. Then the third one is the importance of compassion at the end. And compassion is important at the end as well. Then, as the analogy or the example that I mentioned just now is the crop is ripened, and then there is we have the enjoyments that we can enjoy the crops. So at the end is important is because the crop is ripened, then we can enjoy it. So that it is able to eliminate the sufferings of thirst and hunger.
on the pet the Kandua, Duelia, Duya, doing a Duya, change it to the change Ninja the change to sing again, over the Sentient Duale Doachep. That they will pass, change it to the Duya, Niba lesson. And Niba Yorua, Niba Yorus. That's also Niba Yorus that the Digi, the Tamakichua, and other Ninja thing to be money on the patient Digi Christmas of Samiji Deva, J2, then Niba did it. Once that Digi Christmas of the Samiji Deva Chia did it. To get. Since Dualia, what and the Dual doing Samiji Deva Gila did here. What that did, Tertia did it. Tamakishwa, Dina Shiriamato, Nikanda, and Judah Yana, that Tamatela, Rangi Julape, Taba Tanji, Tapikuba, Nidina, Dajikuba, Totsavina. She, they were the best around Chibi, she, they were she was a couple of mobile best, she, they were the number shed in the Sinji Tencha Kaki Yoma. Sinji Tencha Kaki Yoma. The Susu Rani, she did shoot you, she will, but they were shooting one. Or that this is the couple of mobile number shed in the Yoma. Or did their motto, that the Lima Ibasa, how many did it? Take the Yavana. And you think I should be a big much couple mobile members and big money injecting with the pieces about Yobanashi, singular Lucia, Yobanashi, injecting with the Sanji water. This is how about Savage Devatia, the Digi, Tattoo, she did to the rest.
Yeah, so compassion is important at the end as well. So here refers to the time when we have achieved the state of enlightenment. So in the middle is Bodhichitta as a reason, right? So at the end here refers to the point of time that we have become enlightened, we have become Buddha. So, and once we have become, after we become Buddha, and compassion is very important as well, because by the power of compassion, then one will be able to work for the welfare of other sentient beings. So by the power of compassion, one will work for the welfare of other sentient beings. So once you have become Buddha, then you have the ability to help all sentient beings, to work for the welfare of all sentient beings, right? And the welfare of sentient beings, there are two. One is to free sentient beings from the sufferings, and the second one is to give them the uncontaminated happiness, to guide them and then to achieve the uncontaminated happiness. So that is by the power of compassion that one the mind is moved by these compassions, and the enlightened being work for the welfare of sentient beings. So if then hearers and solitary realizers, so even though they have achieved the state of liberations, they have become arhat. So however, they will they will experience the bliss of peace and they will experience the bliss of peace for eons and eons by themselves. They are unable to work for the welfare of sentient beings. Thus, is very important. Thus, compassion is important at the end.
Oh, the news is that one of these things are they can that body the water the Lotola pay and the issues that Thomas Aveda, the children, Tamani, the teacher, Sanji, but in the water of the woman to want to see your seven woman in
So as Glorious Chantakiti mentioned in entering the middle way, so it's the beginning part of entering the middle way. Say that for harvest, what is important in the beginning is a seed, in the middle, the water, and in the end, it's ripening. So as mentioned just now, so the crop is ripened, and then we have something to enjoy, that you're able to remove the sufferings. So likewise, for the harvest of Buddhahood, what is important in the beginning, the end, and in the middle is compassion.
But you will teach you to do Shannon to the that in the Chanju say, oh, shall I in the them the training, the Jola Dama with tissue, that you will be done to the show. Yes, this is the chili meat chamber, is what chili meat chamber. Yes, telling a bunny by the one of the Ajati Kali or Dina, Sajan, 등복되다. 저때 소업스럽게 야보다니. 그 사냥하고 제보를 해서 사냥하고 제보를 해서 떼고 제보를 해서 어디.
Then there is a dialogue between Xiang Nachung Tuanban and Geshe Tundumba. So Xiang Nachung Tuanban said, although I asked the elder or Lama Atisha for instructions, nothing more came out of it than let go of your worldly thoughts, cultivate Bodhichitta. And then Geshe Tundumba laughed at him and said, you got the central point of the elder's instruction. You actually got the core instructions of the Lama Atisha. So Geshe Tundumba knew the key points of the teachings, the Dharma. So since he knew the key points of the teaching, the Dharma, so since it is difficult to gain certainty about this, then you must gather the accumulations and purify again and again. And you must engage in accumulations and purifications again and again in order to gain certainty.
사정이 서로 나서 들리 뭐라 땡이 땡이 간다 뒤에 되는데 네번 뭐지 제보를 해서 양도 사정 소선 디저 제보를 해면 빨리 가고 해서 그런다 그거 빨리 가고 이 디지라 어디 뭐고지 지려고 어디 뭐고지 간다 데서 취지 투는 뭐 지점에서 한지 사회에 과치 분이 이모지 디지지오 보면 있어요 마고이 가서 산지 정도의 취지분에 투지 장주기 세는 거지 그래서 산지 정도의 전환을 투지 장주기 세는 거지 또 장주기 사는데 취지배 보니까 먼저 님보다 침바 아래마도 가서 수수 지원하고 지네 수수 지원하고 지나 인지기 배신이 당 신지 신의 여자 전부 비하게 이번 과학이 둘이 해서 그게 산지리아 돼서 이 리지 때문에 리스도 받에 먹어서 산지 정도의 전환을 님보다 침바 됐어 사비들와 사비의 또 취지 정도의 주 우리 나지 님보다 침에 대를 시퍼수수 지워 맞선 더버지 된지 진짜 단계 된다 부터에서 거의 해서 이게 시퍼 그래서 그 지워는 맞아 진짜 단계를 변화해서 이게 카드 보는 두두가 말와
Yeah, so one must engage in accumulations of merits and purifications of negativities again and again, and then study the scriptures and the commentaries, such as the marvelous array of sutra. So, in order to seek a firm certainty, or in order to develop a firm certainty about this. And as the glorious Asvaghosha says, referring to the Buddha, your mind, a heroic one, is precious. The seat of complete enlightenment, so is Bodhichitta. So only you know it as the essence. Other beings do not guess that. So other beings refer to ordinary beings. So ordinary beings, they do not guess that. They are unable to work for the welfare of other sentient beings.
Oh yeah, that really showing the general of the material that really what like some Mudra, that what is jail to show what. Jail of the kitchen. Mahayana Shami but James Hassan Sentient that the Catula chance of laws of Mother Chanti to say, well, get your Mauritius wrong, so no doubt about get your machine and young.
Yeah, so I stop here. Then next class, I'm going to start with the way that other causes and effects become causes and effects of that compassion. So you can. It's very good that if you can read before next class because of how important it is. So talking about the compassions being the preliminary for developing bodhicitta.
Rolling this is the jungle to the on the social condition, which is what he showed in Javatan, which was a horrible to the community. The contact is more cheating. Other than the Montuda, Juan, she never lost a changes in general, which communicated work, communicated that the agent percentage, cylinders and several communities of the department, Sunday communicated. And that the near trouble knows you, but they have to military, military pieces of the They can that the name Mepshiba, but Montuchi, the name of Nianchi, the name Mepshiba. The conduct member the nation, 배려 등으로 버티는 간디지나 프랑스 참아봐 대지 피순서가 이나 하나서 참아 투구 공식 그거야 봐 되는 힘들이야 어떤 데 그거 제일서
So we conclude with dedication. We dedicate the roots of virtue accumulated, especially through these Dharma discussions, to the flourishing of Buddha Dharma and to the happiness of all sentient beings as well. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to the upholders of Buddha's teaching, represented by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and also our beloved beloved teacher, Kyabje Lama Sopa Rinpoche. May they live eons long, and may they have good health, and may their enlightened activities spread to all 10 directions. And may their holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to the world peace, and may happiness prevails the world. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to sentient beings, and especially those sentient beings who pass away in pandemic, in wars and conflicts that happens all around the world. And may their negativities accumulated since beginningless time be purified immediately, and may they quickly achieve the state of enlightenment. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to sentient beings who are in the state of suffering. So we suffer because of pandemic, or suffers because of wars and conflicts. May they quickly be free from their sufferings, and may they achieve the excellent happiness. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to beings who help others, who offer helps to others, such as the doctors and nurses. So may their holy wishes be accomplished instantly, and may their life be filled with excellent happiness.
Begewa de tendang doa kuna kampe nangeba jesu lo sang dawa yi tembe nyimbo rindo se je sho janchu semjo rimbo je ma ye pana ke gyu ji ke ba nyamba me ba yang kondo pe wa sho jambe ba wo chi da ke ma dang kondo sambo de an de shin de da ye jesu da lo je ke wa de da dang je ra do mo do rimbo je ma ke pana ke gyu ji ke ba nyamba me ba yang kondo pe wa sho jimye tawa rimboche make pana ke kyuchi nyamba me bayan kone kondo pe wa sho jangjin jangjun jangjun ke we den sing yong be we gun se do bo se chu su du we le me du ju ba da su du je gun do sha de sho ye sung du ju be lang chi se se kan jian zhen jue gun cha na be mo den zeng ga so la so wa de so shen de gun do sho an de ben de ma lu ba kan de ju we sam be yi shin no ka tin su me den zeng ga so la so wa de so du she le do sho ga we ko we shin ma ne pen dang de wa ma lu jung we ne jin re se wang de jing ga so we sha pe si de pa du ding